Hello, everyone. How's it going? Sorry that my camera is not working right now. I seem to have fixed my headset, but not my camera. Or maybe it's just not going to work until I restart Twitch Studio later on. Um, so, so got a few technical difficulties as a result of kind of a weird short incident with a cat. Yeah, one thing and another, but I'm not as worried about the camera anyway, because you don't need to see me for sure. One thing that I am worried about though is I don't have the game on here. Let's get that set up. Huh. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. So we got the game up here for this week. This is Pathfinder Adventures: Rise of the Rune Lords. You might have heard of Pathfinder, which is a very popular non D and D fantasy role playing game um, by I can't remember the name of the game company that produces it, but oh, the music is loud. Okay, I will turn that down. Let me know if it's better. Um, so we've got basically the Pathfinder role playing games is probably probably the second most famous fantasy role playing game system. Maybe Warhammer might be a little bit more popular, but this is definitely popular recently, and it's actually a mod of a different version of Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. So they broke off, and it was kind of a fan made thing. They created their own world. There's a whole bunch of. I think the big thing that's different about Pathfinder is it seems like there's just a ton of extra things that you can buy role playing wise, from maps to tokens to um, rule books and expansion books and things like that. So they really know how to make a lot of stuff to buy for their game system. And they sort of kept that same spirit when they created this Pathfinder Adventures. It's a card game, but there's some really cool elements about it. But there's also a lot of stuff to buy. And that's kind of one of the big controversies of this game, as well as some others that we'll kind of talk about. If you do buy this game, it's on. You can basically play it on a lot of different formats. I started playing this on iPad, and I believe you can even play it on your iPhone. And of course, they do have it on Steam, and I got it on a Steam sale. Um, but I've never played it on Steam, so this will be the first time I'm trying it on here. We're gonna check out the tutorial so we can kind of learn how to play. I've got to refresh my memory. It's not a really difficult game, so if you're someone who likes the idea of starting up a card game, I'm. What's funny about this game is I've actually never played the physical card game. I do own it. I just haven't played it yet because they just came out with a sequel, a second edition. But I am interested in playing it sometime. But I only know the digital version. I played it a couple of times through. And then so we'll kind of look at the game, the tutorial, and then a little bit about the store and kind of how it works. But one of the other big controversies about this game, before we get started, is the fact that it does have an online component. However, the game is not online co-op, which would be awesome, because you can play the game as a co-op in the physical version, and it is completely cooperative. The only problem is you can't do that with the online version. There is no online co-op. The reason why you have to stay hooked online is because they want you to try to earn gold, which you can then use to purchase anything that they have for sale, expansion wise, character wise, card wise in the shop. The only problem is, and this is where the controversy starts, is whether or not they make you grind too much for it, or whether the gold is kind of the economy system is fair enough. I haven't played it enough to really test it myself, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about that when we look at the store afterward. But if you're looking for a really light card game compared to a lot of the other more complex ones out there, this one is pretty fun. I think it has some fun elements, and we'll kind of talk about some of the other things that go on. But let's take a look at the tutorial. When you do start, it does give you a warning. It didn't pop up this time, but it does give you a warning about playing online. You do have to stay online. You can play offline, but you won't be able to earn the gold that you need to be able to buy things in the store. I've already got a little exclamation mark going on in the store here, letting me know maybe I got some free items coming to me. But we'll get to that later. Let's start with the tutorial. There's 5 tutorial chapters. We're going to look at skill checks and skills and basic card management. This is a card game, but there are dice, so there's a little bit of a randomization element to it. And you basically play with all the dice that you would play for a D&D game, which is kind of, if that sounds interesting, um, then this might be a great game for you. So I'm going to have a party of heroes, and of course, like I said, if you're playing the physical game, each person can play a different member of the party, but it's pretty easy to manage each character in your party. And I'm going to learn some basic skills and card actions in this tutorial. So it's cards and dice in this game. I'm going to be controlling Mariciel, a rogue with high dexterity, great combat ability. Characters take turns by searching for the villain, and you do that by exploring locations. There's usually several decks to explore, which each one serves as a location, and you got to search them all to try to find the big boss. A turn has multiple phases. You can give a card, explore, move, discard, and end the turn, and then each of those phases will be discussed later on. So now we're going to talk about exploring locations, how that works. Whenever we go to locations, we can find items, which the positive ones are called boons. They include weapons, armors, allies, and items. And I'm going to click the location deck to explore this location. An ally. Allies can help you in many different ways, and they usually have the card type in the central left location of the card. So they can help me with acquiring future positive cards, exploring additional times. But in order to get them in on my side and to go adventuring with me, I have to actually um, do a skill check to acquire them. In other words, I mean it's kind of role playing ish, right? Like I got to talk them into it with my charisma or diplomacy, this troubadour into coming along with me. I do need to every time you do a skill check, it does use one of your hero's skills. I can use her acrobatics. Oh, interesting. So I can use charisma and diplomacy. I have a choice. If I do that, I have to get a 6. If I use dexterity or acrobatics, I guess to impress him with my dancing skills, he I can do that for a 7 or higher on a d12. And the reason why I use a d12 has to do with my skill. If I was more skilled, I might have a d20 or a 2d6, something like that. Although that's technically 12-sided dice. It also, although I can't get a 1. So what I do when I do a skill check is I roll whatever dice goes with my skill. With acrobatics, that is um, I have to roll a 7, and it gives you a nice percentage, so you know what your chances are. That's going to be important later when you want to decide if you want to boost it with other cards. So I'm going to roll. Okay, cool. So I can click on the portrait at any time, look at her skills, and see what she's going to have to roll to acquire cards or to do combat checks. Your character sheet has all that information. Obviously, you want them to make checks where their skills are the highest. So, for example, at dexterity, she rolls a d12. That's much better than rolling a strength check, which is with a d8. And then, depending on the check, if it's acrobatics, disabling someone, or something, or I need to be stealthy, I actually get a little bit of a boost. So every time I roll that d12, I get to add 2 to it automatically. And as you progress through the campaign, which there is a campaign, so if you really like that idea of being able to play a cool story with a campaign and a character that kind of progresses and levels up, you'll actually become more and more powerful and you can increase your bonuses. All right, so we're finished looking at that, so we're going to close the screen for now. We know that my dexterity check is going to be d12. And you basically click the die and drag it, and it'll automatically roll it. All right, so I got a 14, so he basically becomes my ally. Now, when I click on the card, I have a couple of options, and I just kind of read the text box, and it tells me that I can, for example, recharge it, which will explain what that means later, or I can discard it. Each one does a different effect. Discarding is going to place it in my discard pile. Makes sense, right? Some cards and powers can move a card from a discard pile back into a deck, and you'll see what basically discarding means. It's essentially your health of your character, and if you do rest actions or play certain magic potions, you can heal yourself, and that basically means your discards come back into your deck. You can drag it into your discard pile to do that, or you can click the discard button, and that lets me explore location again. So I'll continue to do that. Now I found a short bow item. Now, in order to get this item, it's pretty easy. I have to do a dexterity range check, and I get to. All I have to do is roll a 3, and as you remember, my dexterity is a d12, so I have an 83% chance of doing that. So it's more than likely that, depending on the type of character you are, obviously she's more dexterous and agility based. So that means that she is going to be more likely to be able to acquire the proper weapons for her. So it's going to be pretty easy. And I get the max roll, kind of a wasted critical. All right, so she has no more actions to take. The only reason why I was allowed to explore a second time was because I was discarding my troubadour. So now I end her turn by clicking the red arrow. And you'll notice up here in the top right, we have all the different phases. We had the give a card, move locations, explore, which is kind of where I started this time with just exploration. And then I ended my turn. Now that she's started a new turn, you'll notice the turn just kind of starts right back up. I can explore again. Ooh, so now I found a monster. And monsters are things you actually have to defeat if you encounter them as you're searching. In order to defeat them, you have to exceed their check. So the check is always up in the upper right hand corner. In this case, I've got to roll a 9 combat to defeat him. Failing to defeat a monster can cause a character to take damage, but that's going to be discussed later. I'm not going to have to worry about that right now. Now you notice I have a different die now. I have a D8. That's because I'm doing a different skill. This is a combat skill, so obviously I'm going to be rolling a smaller die. And I don't have enough. Even if I rolled max 8, I'm not going to defeat the combat. However, that's where weapons are going to come in. If I use a weapon, it'll list which skill check to use. Luckily, I have a short bow. I'm going to click on it. And then the cool thing is there's a third option. So you remember last time there's recharge, discard, and now there's reveal. In order to do that, I reveal it or show it and use it, and then I get to put it right back in my hand. So it's kind of cool. It's not like a weapon is going to be a one-time use and then disintegrate. So I'm going to reveal it. And you'll notice that the option to reveal says you can reveal it to roll dexterity or ranged for your attack. And you also get to add a 1d6. Whatever you roll on that gets added to your total. So it's looking more and more like I'm going to be able to succeed at this test. If I'm proficient with weapons, I can actually discard this card to also add another 1d4 to a combat check at another location, which is kind of cool. I can help allies defeat things at other locations. So you'll notice I got my d12. Now I got a d6. Should be no problem. 16. Easily killed. So she's out of item or actions to take. I can enter turn again. So I'm going to keep searching. You'll notice that there's no card count, but I think there is one later. It'll tell you how many cards are left, which is basically you're done searching the location. I found a blessing of Aristil. I mean, it looks like a bow, so you'd think I could get this. I only need a 4 dexterity check to get it. Blessings are boons that typically add additional dice into your check whenever you're fighting to defeat a monster or acquire something. This blessing gives additional die when it's used in a dexterity-based combat check, which is what I do. All right, so this will be really good because this will help me take down harder monsters. Be pretty easy. I'll be doing the dexterity check to get it. I only needed a 4. I got a 10. So now you'll notice all these cards are coming into my hand, and so I can use them for future combats. So I'm going to save it for the next time I get a villain. Next turn comes up, I just get right back to another villain. Now this is the villain. This is the Sandpoint Devil. I'm hunting him down. Joe, this is not a board game we've ever played. Even on Tabletop Simulator, I've never played this one. I only played this on the digital adaptation. It's kind of like playing a D&D game on the rails. Since it's a card game, it's definitely a lot less role play and more I'm rolling dice just like Dungeons and Dragons and fighting and other things. So what's interesting about this villain is that if I defeat the villain, I win the scenario. So this is kind of what I need to do. But there's something about the villain that's not, going to keep me from defeating him right away at the beginning of the game. So I'm going to use my blessing of Iristil, and that adds a D8 because again, it adds the same die that you would normally use for combat. So I could roll as much as a 16. I've increased my roll success to 43. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I can't use my short bow. So not a great chance of success, but we'll see. Oh, I got a 16. So I defeated him. Congratulations on finishing the first tutorial. The next tutorial goes deeper into card mechanics, hand management, and combat. Alright, so I've defeated him, but he's not dead, of course. Going back into the second tutorial. Hey, I got 100 gold already. I'm earning gold to spend in the store. But of course, as we all know, 100 gold probably won't buy me much. So I got a card reward for her, a short bow +1. So you can get magic weapons, things like that as cards, and if they come up in your hand, guess what? You can equip them, and all you have to do is show them. All right. So there's little rewards every time you play a quest. So we're going on to chapter 2. We're going to be talking about hand size, hand management, damage, death, bearing, and banishing cards. So we'll be learning about the other types of ways you can play cards. That's one of the things about this game is there's a lot of ways to use cards, and you really that is the most tactical part of this game is figuring out what's the best way to use your cards so that you don't run out, but yet you use them to the best, to the most potential. All right, we'll also talk about damage and death. All right, so hand size. All characters have a hand size limit that's denoted by the number in the hand down here in the bottom right of the screen. Pretty simple. This is the number of cards that you can draw up to or down to at the end of your turn. So if you ever have more than that, you have to go down to 5. Less than that, you get to draw up to 5. If you can't draw a card because you've run out, you die. So that's basically your health. So once a character dies, they can't be used for the rest of the scenario, but they can be used as normal in future scenarios. So your deck is kind of your health. And I believe this number down here is how many cards I have in my deck. I only have 10. But as I level up and I get rewards, I can keep going. And as you can see here, I've got my short bow +1, which was a reward from the last one. If you turn on permadeath, however, which you can do in the game, you'll be removed from the game permanently. So you can actually cut them out of the campaign. I'm assuming you get more rewards if you play with permadeath. So we'll keep searching the deck, trying to get the villain. So we got the Goblin Warrior up again. He's got a combat of 9, and I'm only rolling a d8, so I'm going to have to play something else. Let's do the short bow, since I just have to reveal that. So I can click on a card, and then just click reveal, and it automatically adds a d6, so now I can get up to 18, plus my short bow is going to add 1 to the combat, which clearly is shown there. I could use my blessing if I want to. If I discard it, I can add another die, which will be another d12, I believe. But that's kind of overkill. Right now I'm at a 70%. I think I'm just going to go with that. Ooh, look at that. I didn't get it. An unlucky roll. Sometimes the dice just don't roll your way. If you fail to defeat a monster, I take damage equal to the difference between the difficulty of the monster and the check result. So you notice that I got a 4. The monster's combat value is 5, so I have to take 4 damage. And so that means I have to discard 4 cards from your hand. If the amount of damage is greater than the number of cards in your hand, then the additional damage is ignored, which is kind of nice. Some card, like armor, can reduce the amount of damage that you take. So you basically, if you know you have armor in your hand, this is when you're going to use it. You click on it, and you'll notice that if it says, if you bury it, then you can get, uh, let's see, where does it say that? Recharge this card to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 1. So that's a not great effect. Or you could banish this card to reduce all damage to you by 0. If you are proficient with light armors, you bury it instead. So basically, I would banish the card if I'm not proficient, but because I am proficient with light armor, I get to bury it instead, which is not as bad. So let's bury it. Reduces the damage to 0. And then you just have to confirm. You notice that the undefeated monster did not get destroyed. He got reshuffled back into the location deck, so I can possibly get him back again. So we'll start a new turn, and you'll notice I drew up to 5. So we'll go. Now we've got a pit trap. So traps are basically called barriers. That's the type of card it is. There's traps, there's other kinds of obstacles. And when they come up, you have to do a skill check just like everything else. So basically, if you've noticed, you do a skill check to acquire cards. Even if they're positive, you do skill checks to fight monsters, and you do skill checks to get across barriers. So this is one of my problems with the game is there's not really a whole lot unless you that you're really doing here in this game, unless you get into the theme and the story and you can suspend your disbelief. Then they can seem it seems like you're doing maybe a little bit more than just the typical rolling, 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 and seeing if you can pass. All right. There are consequences if we fail to defeat a barrier, just like with monsters. However, it doesn't cause you to take damage. You just do whatever. It's possible you could take damage, but the effect will tell you what happens. To ensure that she can defeat the barrier, I'm going to discard the Blessing of the Gods, which gives me an extra die. I may only play one type of boon per check, so I can only play one blessing. Let's see. So I'll discard it to add a die. So it gives me now a 93% chance to succeed, plus 2, 23. Now, because I did defeat the barrier, I can explore again after I defeat it if I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I've got the caltrops, which are an item that I can acquire and then use. They can help me evade a monster if I don't want to fight it, or help me defeat it if the difficulty's low. I've got a 75% chance of getting it. I'm going to go ahead and just roll for that. Got it. All right, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to end my turn, and you'll notice I won't get any cards or lose any cards because I'm right at my hand limit. I'll keep exploring. That monster again. Let's banish the caltrops to automatically defeat the monster. Okay, so dumb monster, caltrops. Banishing a card removes it from the character's deck permanently. The banished card can be found in the future by exploring locations and scenarios. Okay, so it takes banish is taking it out of your deck permanently, so you don't get any more for the campaign, but you can explore locations to find it in the future. I can also drag it into the chains above. Banish this card to evade a monster you encounter if their difficulty is 14 or lower, or I can banish this card to defeat a monster whose highest difficulty to defeat is 9 or lower. So I think I'll defeat him instead of evading him. Oh, I think what it was telling me in the instructions is that if I evade him, he just goes back into the deck. But since his combat value is 9, he's going to be defeated instead. All right, so we got to keep going with ending the turn. Had 4 cards, so I'm back up to 5. We'll keep exploring. Okay, the other thing that you can use blessings for, which is really cool, is you can discard the card to do several things. You can add a die to a check, which is what I did for the last combat. I can discard the card to explore your location. And you'll notice that when I have a blessing in my hand, that technically increases my health. And I get them with special actions. So I discarded it, and now I can do another exploration. I finally found the villain. So I have to learn what I've used previous or use what I've learned previously to defeat it. So I only have an 8. There's no way I can defeat it. I've got to get at least a 10. I'm going to use a blessing of the gods to give me now 16. I've increased down to, but that's still only 43%. I can't use another boon, but I can use an item. You'll notice that the boons are all blue, and it won't let me, as you can see, use it. I can't use this blessing. I can't use the troubadour. He's not glowing because he just helps with dexterity, non-combat dexterity or charisma checks. So he's not going to be useful in this combat. But I can use my short bow. If I reveal it, I get to use my dexterity instead. And because right now I'm only using d8s, but watch, it's going to turn them to d12s. Plus, it also adds a d6 and adds 1 to my combat check. So I've increased my chances to 93%. 26 easily defeats him. All right. So in the next tutorial, as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get the hang of it, you kind of know exactly what to do. You're only going to have to deal with one card at a time as you're exploring locations. And now in this next tutorial, we're going to take a look at what happens with, obviously there's more than one location in a game. And so you kind of understand how that works as well. We're also going to learn a little bit about henchmen, which are like mini bosses in this game. In this tutorial, we'll teach you about locations and henchmen. We'll discuss location powers, the location deck, and why exploring locations is important to hunting villains and henchmen. It'll also detail what henchmen are and why they're important to closing locations and cornering villains. Some scenarios have additional powers that take effect for the entire scenario. This scenario does not have one of these powers, but there'll be one in a later tutorial. Oh, excuse me. In a typical scenario, each location is going to contain either a henchman or a villain. Henchmen are special banes that, when defeated, allow characters to close the location they came from. So basically, you have a number of locations that you start off with, and as you defeat henchmen, you close off those locations, just like you're sort of fighting mini bosses, slowly getting closer and closer to the main boss. And then once you've cornered the main boss, when there's no more locations left except for that one, then you can defeat him. So you kind of have to corner him in the last location, but you can't actually permanently kill him or permakill him until you get down to just one location. So it kind of forces you. You might encounter him early, but it kind of forces you to close all the other location. So you can see why henchmen are important. Henchmen help you corner the main boss. So you do have to kind of fight them every time. Henchmen are treated like monsters with checks to defeat and the possibility to damage characters. So they are not technically monsters, but they are treated like monsters in most ways. So every location is represented by a deck of cards, but of course on the digital version, they just look like compass roses. And they can, if you click on a location, you can see what kind of cards are available. So what's interesting about this game is you know what's in the deck. You just don't know when you're going to draw it. So as you look up in the upper left, if you understand what any of these symbols mean, then you will see what kind of cards you're going to get when you go to that deck. Some of the icons are obviously pretty self-explanatory. If you see the little orange guy here, it's a monster. You got some barriers. Looks like there's 3 monsters in this deck, 1 barrier, 1 weapon to find for me, no spells, no armor, 3 items that I can acquire, 1 ally I could acquire, and doesn't look like there's any unknown cards or blessings. So there can be some unknowns. And of course, we know there's a henchman. The location decks have Banes to defeat, like these 3 monster cards. So we know that they're going to be bad cards like those. They go in there. They're also useful boons and items. And then don't forget that there's also henchmen and villains. And they get kind of shuffled up. Now, what's interesting is when you're playing the game, you get to choose what location you go to, so you don't know if you're going to run into a henchman or a villain. You won't run into more than one henchman, and if you run into a henchman, you won't have a villain, and vice versa. Because basically, you shuffle them like in the real game separately, and you add them to each location deck. Let's see. There are also conditions for closing each location, and if you fail to meet them, then the location will remain open. And so you want to make sure that you can do that, meet those conditions, so you can close it and not have to come back to it again. So in this tutorial, we're only going to search one location. The Lost Coast. Okay, I'm not going to be searching for the villain. I'm going to close the farmhouse location. You will get a chance to close the location by either defeating the henchman or exhausting all of the cards, and then okay, so it's possible I could close a location before all the cards are exhausted, and the number up here tells me how many cards there are left. And I can see a running total of what types of cards are left. You'll see there's other special effects. Like, for example, if I'm at this location, if an ally is discarded, it gets buried, which kind of sucks. So I can't get them back. It's harder to get allies back if you lose them at the farmhouse. If I close this, I have to summon and defeat. If I want to close it, I have to summon and defeat a random monster. And then if it's permanently closed, there's no permanent effect. Yeah. All right, so let's look for the henchman. I'm exploring the first card. Looks like it's an ally I can get, a burglar. I can use charisma, diplomacy, or dexterity and stealth. Probably use dexterity or stealth. So I'm going to recharge my troubadour. Now, let's see. Recharging lets me add a 1d6 to a non-combat. You'll notice this is a non-combat check. I'm trying to talk a burglar into joining me, so the troubadour, I guess, serenades him, and helps out. So I'm going to recharge the card. I believe that means it just goes back in my deck, which is kind of cool. Yeah, places it on the bottom of your deck. It's useful because now you'll have a chance to redraw it later in the scenario, and it obviously prevents your death because your health is your deck, the number of cards you have in your deck. You can also drag it on your deck if you don't want to click the recharge button, but I always find the buttons are way easier. Hey, my camera started. It's a Christmas miracle. That's weird that it just all automatically decided to load up. To recharge a card, you can also drag it to the character's deck. Okay, we said that already. So let's go ahead and roll. See if we get this guy. 17. Easy. And he gets added to my hand, so I won't draw any more cards, but that's okay. All right, so I get to do the rest of the scenario by myself to find the henchman in the farmhouse. So you notice the card count is going down. I'm down to 9. Okay, we got some holy water. You'll notice that I'm only rolling a d6 for this check because it's using my wisdom or divine score. And you'll notice it automatically picks, but you can click this drop down table here. I like how it moves the die down, kind of pushes it down. But you'll notice that if I can roll divine if I want to, but you'll notice I'm only going to roll a d4, which sucks. So obviously it's going to pick the best die for you. So right now that's a d6. Now the trick is that if I use, so this is for disable or stealth checks. My potion of glibness helps me succeed at diplomacy checks. I'm so glib, but that's not this. My crowbar, you'll notice none of my cards are glowing. That means they're not useful. So I can't use any of my cards for this check, so I'm just going to have to roll for it. There's no way I'm getting it. And that's why it says 0%. Okay, if I don't get a boon, it gets banished, so it's removed permanently. But there's always ways to find boons at other locations. And some of them, you'll notice that I did a wisdom check. I know, Joe, it's funny. I don't know how my camera just lost and now it's back. The thing that's really cool about this game is that let's say I didn't get the wisdom check, it's not a big loss because that card was probably more useful to a different class of character. So you really don't have to worry. Although it would have helped if I gotten it because it gives me more hit points. It might not have been very useful. Here's that pesky goblin warrior again. I'm going to use my short bow. All I have to do, remember, is reveal it if it's in my hand. And you'll notice basically what your hand becomes that's kind of different about this kind of card game. Your hand is kind of like your inventory, right? Some things you will use by recharging or banishing or discarding, but then some things like weapons will just be revealed and they add dice to help you with a skill check. Now I have a 70% chance of winning. I don't think I can add anything else to it, so we're going to just go for it. Got him. So you'll notice now the number of monsters is down to 2. There's only 2 monsters left, and one of them is a henchman. I think. I'm trying to think. No, there's an unknown card, so I'm assuming that's the henchman. I don't think it would be counted as a monster because remember, a henchman is a Bane card, so I don't think that technically counts as a monster, even though it acts pretty much like a monster. So I'm going to explore again, down to 7 cards now. This location. Got some darts. This is something that is great for my type of character because I only need a 4 to get it. It's a dexterity check. Got it. Now you notice I'm getting a card. Okay, I guess it went to my deck. That's interesting. Oh no, I have to discard a card now. That's what's going on. It's the end of my turn, and because I have more than 5 cards, I have to discard something. I don't know. I have a pretty good weapon. I know I can use multiple weapons, but I'm going to go ahead and discard the darts. Yeah. And then I don't have to... I can discard other cards if I want to, but I'm going to go ahead and keep all these. I'm not really sure if I'm going to end up using some of these non-combat cards, but... Okay, so we got a zombie. Now, I'm rolling a d8, but if I show my short bow, I get to roll a d12 and a d6. Why didn't I... I'm trying to figure out why I didn't get that last time, but it doesn't matter. So I have a 70% chance of success. I'll go ahead and roll that. Easily got him. Now there's just 1 monster left in this location deck. It's nice to have these card counts up here of types, so you know kind of you can decide. It helps you decide discards, right? So if you know you don't have any more monsters in the deck, that allows you to put some of your weapons away, or if there's no more items left, you can put your burglar away or something like that. Luckstone. So this is an item. I have to do a wisdom or survival check. I only have a 33% chance because all I can roll is a 6 to get it. And I can't use any of my cards I have. Hey, I got it. But that means I'm going to have to discard a card at the end of my turn. So we'll go ahead and put the Luckstone. And then keep going. So I'm down to 4 cards left. All right, so combat with a giant gecko. I only have a 12% chance of success. So obviously I want to use my short bow to change that d8 into a d12, and then I also add 6, so now I'm at 79%. I'm just rolling through the location. Now there's no monsters left, so I was right. The henchman does not count as a monster, so you won't see it show up under this column. It's probably the unknown card, because I don't think it could be the... Yeah, I don't think it's an item or barrier, so it's just the unknown. We know that's the henchman. So there's only 3 cards left. There's a barrier, an item. Here's the barrier. It's a pit trap. So I get to roll a d12 and add 2 because it is an acrobatics check. That you'll notice if you ever want to see how you're getting this, it's you just click this drop down menu and you'll see for acrobatics, that's why I'm adding 2. If you remember with my character sheet, acrobatics is an additional bonus plus getting to roll this big d12 die. 58% is pretty good, but I think I'm going to use my burglar. Recharging him puts him back at the bottom of my deck, but it adds a 1d10 to make sure I can defeat a barrier. Now I've got a 91% chance. Got it. Now remember, because I explored that pit, I automatically get to re-explore again. I'll go ahead and do that. I'm assuming the reason why you wouldn't explore is maybe if you're out of cards in your hand or your health is low and you're kind of worried about hitting a monster or something, and you want to draw more cards into your hand before you face them. So you got to kind of time your decisions correctly so you know whether to keep exploring. Now I found the henchman. So with only one other card left in the deck, besides this guy, might as well defeat him and try to close the location. You'll notice that if I close the location after I defeat him, so you'll notice his ability says if you defeat him, you may immediately attempt to close the location he's from. And then when you do that, you look at the ability on the left here, it's going to summon a random monster. So I'm going to have to defeat this guy plus another monster. I have no chance of success right now because he has a 9 combat value. So I'm going to reveal this, increase my chance to 70%. Got him. So now I can try to close the location. It'll automatically prompt you. If I fail, then I have to kind of keep going. I think what happens is you have to defeat the henchman again, or maybe I just have to keep exploring and get the last card revealed. Okay. So the difficulty to defeat this guy is increased by the scenario's adventure deck number. I think that might be just 1. But before I do anything, he's going to deal me damage, which sucks. So 3 damage. So I have to discard 3 cards, but as you remember here, I can discard my... I can reduce combat by recharging it by 1, which means I have to discard 2 other cards, or I can banish it or bury it to reduce, because I'm proficient with light armor, I can bury it. So I think if I wasn't proficient, I wouldn't have the option to bury it, or it would say banish. But I will bury it, which puts it. I think you can get cards back from buried, so that's how it's different than banish. Okay, so I block that damage. I have 12% chance of success. I'm going to use my short bow, increase that considerably. Boom. So now you'll notice because I was successful, I was able to close the location, and now if there were more than one location, the villain would have one less place to hide. All right, so now I'm going to control multiple heroes and explore multiple locations. All right, getting a good little amount of gold here built up. Ooh. So one of the things is they have a lot of like little decorative things that you get with gold or as a reward. In this case, I've got some marbly skin dye I can use. All right, so this is going to teach me party management, how to move locations when there's multiple locations, and how to aid heroes. Let's do this. All right. There's also going to be a blessings deck that's going to be introduced and a time limit to catch and defeat the villain, which is one of the reasons I assume that you want to try to search multiple times if you can. Some scenarios have additional powers that take effect. Okay, this scenario doesn't have one. All right, so you'll notice that the henchman and the villain are going to get shuffled, and each one's going to be placed at a different location without you knowing which is which. My objective is not to hunt the villain, but to try to close all 3 locations. To help close these locations, you will be controlling a small party of heroes. In addition to Marisel, you now control Kyra. Kyra is a cleric and can use divine spells to help her party. If you would like to view her skills, you can find them on the character sheet, and you can do that by clicking the party button in between locations. Now I have multiple locations to explore and multiple heroes to control. I must select where they're going to start. Drag their character token onto a location. Some heroes do better at certain locations, so I should read through the location powers before deciding where to start heroes. For example, Kyra will have an easier time closing the desecrated vault because it requires wisdom or divine check to close it. Remember, every check requires some kind of skill or combat, and so Mariciel would be better at the dungeon because she does do wisdom and divine checks. And wait, yeah, Kyra is going to have an easier time doing that. Mariciel will do better at farmhouse because there's more monsters there. So you can see how there's a little bit of tactics deciding where your character is going to go based on what their skill is, what kind of cards they have in their deck. She's obviously a better fighter. So I'll have her start at the farmhouse. And then I believe that it was the desecrated vault that I'm supposed to take Kyra to. So you can split up your party as much as you want. I mean, it doesn't make much difference. There's not really a lot going on at each location. You can always change locations. I can also choose the party's turn order. So I click and drag character tokens until I have them in the right order that I want to have them act in. So yeah, I just switch them pretty easily this way. I'll go ahead and start with Mariciel. The Lost Coast. Something new to note is the Blessings deck in the top right corner of the screen. So that's this circle here. The Blessing deck has 30 blessings in it, and it has a little counter to help remind you of how many are left. At the start of each character's turn, a new blessing is drawn from the Blessing deck. If you're unable to draw a blessing from the Blessing deck because you've run out, you automatically lose. So you can see how it's a timer, but then the cool thing is it does give you a blessing, which is beneficial to help you. To help ensure that you don't run out of cards in the Blessing deck, it can be smart to perform additional explorations by discarding allies or blessings, because you don't want to run out of time. All right, let's explore. Remember what I've learned to require boons, banes, hunt henchmen, and close the locations. All right, so we've got a scout. Now, what's cool is that I have a choice to encounter or evade him. Trying to figure out how would I evade him, I'm wondering. None of my cards are glowing. Okay, so he does some damage to me. Oh, I'm gonna reduce it, recharge it to reduce it by 1. Now I just have to discard 1, so I'm going to discard the crowbar. Hopefully I won't need it. And you'll notice I started this combat. I don't have my bow. Okay, so now we start the actual combat. I'm rolling a d8, but I'm going to play my darts. If I reveal them, I get to use my dexterity, which changes the d8 to d12, and I roll an additional 1d4 because of the dart. All right, got him. So now normally Mariciel's turn would be over. Oh, it is over. I thought maybe I had something to keep exploring, but I don't. So her turn's over. So I draw up to 5 cards, or down to 5. Discard down to 5. Now it switched over to Kyra in the tomb. So she's going to take her turn by exploring. During a check, if another character can help, they'll have an exclamation by their portrait. Let's click and see what she can do. Some checks may be impossible for a single character to pass, like this guy has 10 combat to defeat, but they become much easier if multiple characters use boons to increase the size of the check. Okay, so this is the card I can use. So I will aid it. So now I have a D12, I'm up to 44%. And man, that's still not a lot. So I can also use my blessing that Kyra has. And now it's an 83% chance. I can also use Guidance, which is a spell. If I discard it, it adds 1 die to the check. Oh no, just 1 plus 1. So now I've increased it to 90%. I think that's good. Used a lot of cards, but that was a big guy. Okay, so after I play the card, I can do a skill check to actually recharge it instead of discarding it. That's kind of cool. So let's say we recharge. See if we'll succeed. We've got a 91% chance because it's a divine check. So it's kind of cool. Spells can go away, but if you roll a save check, you can save them and they go back in your on the bottom of your deck, which is kind of cool. I like that about spells. I can also cure. Now, Kyra is an awesome healer. So what happens when she uses her cure card, I can reveal this card, choose a character, and that character gets to shuffle discards back in their hand. So Kyra has 1, and Mariciel has 2. You notice it's 1d4 plus 1, so I could get up to 5. So I think I'll wait until I have a few more discards before I cure anybody. So you notice I drew back up to 5, and now we're back to Mariciel in the farmhouse. She's going to draw another card. I've got a pit trap. Remember, if I defeat this, I get to explore again. I've got a 58 chance of success. I'm going to use my Thieves' Tools. Reveal this card to add a die to your disable. It's not a disable check. Defeat a barrier whose highest... Okay, so I can basically discard this to defeat this automatically. Or I can use my burglar to add a d10 to this check and increase it even more. I think I'm going to use my Thieves' Tools because I do discard it, but I can always heal with Kyra. Oh, Kyra can help. She can play a blessing. I think I can do this with the Thieves' Tools. So I'll discard it and then automatically defeat it. Now, you'll notice after it has another recharge ability. So this is cool. So just like with spells, she can recharge this card and use it again with a disable 8 check. I mean, it's kind of cool to there's no penalty for trying to recharge it. I've got a 58%, and I can use my burglar if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go for it. I did it. So it goes back in my deck. So I'm going to explore again since I beat the barrier. Okay, so I can acquire a potion of healing. Now you'll notice up here, I've got 2 more enemies, an unknown card, and some items, an ally. Okay. So this is an intelligence check to craft this. So I'm not very good as a thief. I'm not good at crafting things. I can later use it to kind of heal cards back into my deck. I have no chance of succeeding right now. I can have Kyra help me. I think it might be worth it because she could heal herself then and not need Kyra to heal her. So I'm going to play a blessing, which adds a die to the check. Unfortunately, it's only a d4, but that does give her a 62, better than 50-50 chance. Okay, got it. Okay, so now she can heal herself. And it has to be at that location. So they have to be someone at the location, and then you can heal 1d4 cards randomly back into your deck. So I think I'll save that for when I take a little bit more damage. That way I don't waste any of it. So Kyra will explore now. You'll notice at the beginning of all of her turns, at the beginning of both characters' turns, they're getting a blessing. And so now we're down to 26. So you can see how the timer's slowly ticking down. I can't believe I think I just skipped her turn and I didn't explore. That's really annoying. I can't believe I did that. Okay, we got a goblin. So I'm going to... You notice I just dragged it instead of clicking it. So there is a speedier way to play cards. You don't have to click and then click again. You can just drag them up and it'll automatically change everything up. So I switched to a D12 and added a D4. Killed him easily. don't think I'm going to discard anything. So we'll go back to Kyra. I'm not ready to cure anybody yet. Okay, so we found the henchman here. So I can attempt to close this location, which is going to be a wisdom check. So I got to be careful and save a blessing possibly for that wisdom check. It's not too high. Let's click on let's see, a wisdom check. I'm going to get to roll a d12, and it's a divine check, so I'm going to get to add 2. So I only have to roll a 10 on, no wait, I only have to roll a 4. That should be pretty easy. So I could use my blessings if I want to. So I definitely need to use 1. So I'm going to discard to add a die to the check. But I still don't like those odds. Oh, but I can only use 1 blessing. Excuse me. These odds are not great. And of course, Mariciel doesn't have an exclamation, so she can't help. Well, not too bad. Okay, so now you'll notice I'm prompted, do I want to close this location? If I do that, then we're just down to 2 locations. So obviously I want to try. I've got a 75% chance. Now, because this is a new check, I can also discard this by dragging it. I've got a 97% chance. I didn't really have to use that blessing. So now I just have to close the last 2 locations and I win. So we'll go to Mariciel's. She's still got to go through 6 more cards to this location. Okay, we've got a Warlord monster. No percent chance of defeating him, but with the dart, I can increase it. Why can't I play this card? Okay. D12 now, plus a D4. Oof, I only have a 37% chance. But guess what? Kyra has a chance of helping. She can play her blessing to give me another D12, I believe. Yeah. Okay, you'll notice that I couldn't drag it that time. I had to click on it because Kyra's not at the location, I think. But now I've got a 77% chance. Easy. Well, only easy when I could play about a billion cards. Okay, so Mariciel's got this down to 5 cards. But Kyra definitely got her location done a lot faster. So you'll notice that there's a new step now because I finished this location. I've got to click on the compass in order to decide where to go next. You'll notice that the location that's closed has an X over it. I should go to another open location to close that. I got to get all 3 of these closed to win. So I think I'll have her go. I can always look at the location. I have to get a Constitution or Fortitude check to close this place. That seems like a good place to go, considering the fact that seems like a good place to go. Now I can cure now at this point because I get the card back anyway, or I can recharge it. So I'm going to figure out how much I get to cure. Ooh, 5. That's a max. So I get all cards back. So now my deck is back up to 12, fully healed. No cards in my discard. I have a chance of recharging it if I succeed. 58% chance. That's not a bad chance. Got it. So 13 cards in my deck. I'm pretty well healed. Now I'm ready to explore. Oof, right away, I got the henchman. Okay, so I have no chance of success. I don't think I have any cards that are doing anything. Man, this ally does not help me with combat. Okay. No chance, but I have to roll anyway. Sad. So he damages 2 things. All right, we'll get rid of 2 cards. And of course, you'll notice he gets shuffled back in. So I'm going to encounter him later, but I'll have a bigger hand of cards. I can actually discard this ally in order to explore again. The downside is that I have no cards left, so I would be going in with no boost to my die rolls for checks. So I think I'm just going to keep going. Oh, she literally drew 4 cards because that's all that she had left in her hand. How did that happen? Okay, so I can get this standard bear on my side if I do a charisma check. 16% chance. I'm going to use a glibness potion. I banish it, but she automatically succeeds. So she goes in my hand. It's a nice trade-off. Now I'm going to use her to discard to explore. All allies, I think, have the ability to explore locations if you discard them. So I'll do that. I can acquire this mace. 62% chance. Not bad. Got it. Okay, now I do want to heal. Well, no, I only have 2 cards on my discard. I can play my troubadour to explore. Yeah, let's do that. So I get to explore again. I'm getting close. I got to get out of here. Amulet of Life. Discard this card to reduce damage dealt to you by 3. It requires an arcane check. So I'm not good at that. 25%. I don't have a card to help me. Yeah. Couldn't do it. That's okay. So I still don't want to use my potion of healing because it could heal up to 4. All right. Kyra's working on this new location. Got a lot of blessings. Ooh, a large chest. This is a barrier, but it's possibly, let's see, the difficulty to defeat is increased by the scenario's adventure deck number. So I'm assuming that that's automatically figured in to the numbers that are shown. Yeah, see, it looks like there's a 10 here. And so since this is an adventure deck number 1, I'm assuming it's the level 1 quest. It's increased. Oh, no, you're right. It's 10. Of course, I'm saying you're right. I don't know who's right, but it's a 10 check because I'm using my strength or melee, which is my best skill for this. I'm not going to be good at this, but if I play a blessing, if I discard a blessing, I now have 41% chance. I can recharge this card to add 1d6, so now I have an 83% chance. Might as well do that. 16. Got it. What happens? If defeated, I draw 1d4 new weapons. Cool. Roll to draw a new weapon. Okay. 3 weapons. Where do those come out of? My deck? Maybe, it looks like. Since I only have 10 cards left in my deck. Yeah, I guess it says draw. I'm assuming they come out of the deck. Okay, so I can discard this. I'm going to need to discard it anyway, so I might as well discard it to explore again. Bracers of Protection. Recharge this card to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 1. 66% chance. I'm just going to roll. Got him. So that's good protection. Now I'm going to have to discard again, or I can anyway, so I might as well discard this to explore once more. Damn it. Okay, the Goblin Commando does 1 damage before I can even do anything. I mean, I might as well recharge this and reduce that damage to nothing. Now we'll start combat. No percent chance of success. Ooh, for the combat check, I can discard this card to roll strength or melee, and then add a 1d6 and a 1d8. Well, let's see if I'm proficient. Ooh, but I do have to discard that card to do it. Man, I'm only at 50%. That's crazy. I guess we'll get a blessing on that. 81% chance now. It was a big guy. All right. So now we're just down to 7 cards in that location. Still don't want to heal. We'll just go explore. All right, so now I got the henchman. I'm going to use everything I can. Increases it to 54. And you'll notice I can only play 1 weapon. I believe that's because you don't want to change it to strength and melee if you change it to something better. I'm going to play my blessing. Oh, I got to discard that to play it. So that adds another d12. I've got a 90% chance. Now you notice I've kind of screwed myself here because if I want to close the location, I got to defeat a monster. This monster may be too hard to defeat. 62% chance. That's probably better than what my mace would have done. Man. Ah, got him. Okay. So that's all I had to do is defeat 1 more monster. That location's closed. Now Kyra we just have to finish this location, and I can bring Marisail here so we can both work on this. 16% chance. She doesn't really have a need for weapons because I just had that treasure chest that gave me a bunch. So I think I'm just going to roll. I don't think I got it. So it was banished. It's okay. So I'm going to use a blessing to keep exploring. Oof, we got an ogre. So I think I can only use 1 weapon. This is going to use dexterity. Or I can use my longsword. I'm going to use my longsword. Only a 6% chance. Now it's a 35% chance. Wow, I can't believe I did that. Yeah, that giant Geico is so stupid. Okay. So I definitely defeated that guy, but I wasted a lot of cards to do that. I'm not really sure why I drew several blessings in that last turn, or that 1 turn. It's very weird. All right, so I got to change locations. We got her going to help Kyra out. All right, so we got the henchman already. Let's see. Banish this card to evade a monster. Banish this card to defeat a monster. I mean, got him. Now I have to do a constitution check. I guess I just evaded him and not defeated him. That's weird. Wonder why I did that. It said that... Oh, well. Okay, the scout deals range damage. So I'll play my chainmail. Maybe I'll play my guidance. Oh. Alright, so if I recharge it, reduces damage to nothing. So I've got no chance right now. If I do guidance, lets me add 1 to the check. I'll use a blessing and a heavy crossbow. All right, it's pretty good, 79%. Okay, so we're down to just, so I can recharge this by doing a skill check. 91% chance, got it. Now you notice that she's down to 7 cards. That's not great. I need to heal because I've got 11 cards on my discard, but I don't have any healing cards. Okay, so Kyra can heal because she's at the same location now. I think, well, they're both. Yeah, Kyra needs a little bit more. We'll heal Kyra. How many cards? 3 cards. All right. So we'll see what we get. Skellington. No percent chance. I'm going to use my darts. 29% chance. Wow. Why is it saying 29%? That's got to be... I guess, I mean, maybe it's that low of a chance, but. Alright, no monsters left. All that's left is the henchman, a spell, and a barrier. Here's the barrier. 50% chance. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and explore again, because I got the weapons and stuff. I should be able to do a good job. Reveal this card to use your strength or melee skill. You may additionally discard this card to add another d6. So I'm going to discard this, because I get to add my strength or melee and 2 dice. I don't think I can do anything else, unfortunately. But I've got an 83% chance of getting this guy done. Now to close, I get to do a Constitution or Fortitude check, and unfortunately I can't use anything else. So I just have to roll a 33% chance. Got it. All right. So in the next tutorial, you're going to play a whole scenario where you're going to use everything you've learned to hunt down the villain. So you notice I didn't have to fight a villain that time. In the next tutorial, I'll have to fight henchmen, close locations, corner the villain in the last location, and defeat him there. If I run into the villain early, then I have to defeat him. Ooh, flaming shortbow +1. Nice little reward. And she got quarterstaff +1. That's cool. All right, last tutorial chapter. So this is a full scenario. You'll also learn about turn phases, villains fleeing if they are defeated before they have no location left. And once you're done, you'll know how to play a full game. Most scenarios have powers that affect you. In this scenario, you add 2 to your check when you attempt to defeat a Bane. Okay, so that's this scenario. You can always check on that later. Here's the main villain, and then there's a couple of henchmen, 1 for every remaining location. So there's 3 total. So I don't know which one they're going to. Marisol and Kyra are going to have their starting locations chosen for them just for the purposes of this scenario. They will be unable to leave their locations until they've encountered a villain for the first time. So see how this goes. Let's just go in that same turn order. Now I notice a value of having Kyra go second is that if she has to heal, because Marisol just took some damage, she should go second. All right, phase bar. The first phase is give a card. Before moving or exploring, you may give a card to another character at the same location. It is important to note that you may do this only if you have not yet explored or moved. Okay, so you have to do it before you explore or move. You can give a card to another character at the location. Then you move. You can move to any other location. This is a great thing to do if you need to move to another character's location or if your current location is closed and you need to move to an open one. The third phase is explore. Many times your character will skip straight to this phase if they don't need to give a card or move to a new location. Exploring is how you search for the villain and henchmen in a location. Seems like there's a weird highlight thing going on. Ending turn is the next phase. Ending the turn will cause the current character's turn to end and pass play to the next character. If a character is under a hand size limit, they draw cards up to their hand size. The last phase discard is optional. If a character has more cards in their hand than their hand size, they'll be forced to discard. Players may also optionally discard any card in their hand during this phase. This may be a good strategy if the cards in your hand are not going to help you, and you need to cycle through the character's deck. Alright. So I gotta keep going until I defeat the villain. So let's start exploring. Found him right away. Alright, so now's a great time to talk about villains escaping to locations. Unlike monsters and henchmen, villains don't just need to be defeated, they also need to be cornered, meaning you need to ensure there are no open locations for them to escape to. So when you encounter them, if there's any open locations, if it's destroyed, then it will automatically be shuffled to a random open location. Luckily, when the villain is encountered, all characters at an open location will have the opportunity to temporarily close the location. Oh, okay. So there is an option to temporarily close it as well to keep them blocked. That's interesting. Temporarily closing a location doesn't close it permanently, but it prevents the villain from escaping. If you defeat a villain and all locations are closed or temporarily closed, you still win. So you can corner him even though you haven't finished a location yet. That's kind of cool. To temporarily close a location, you need to perform the win closing check for that location. Attempt to temporarily close a location now to prevent the villain from going there. So that also helps you narrow down because I know where he's going if he doesn't go to that location. Let's do it. 75% chance. That's not bad. Let's add a blessing to it just so we can figure out where he's going. Got to discard that. Okay. So we've closed it. So that means that he is not going to be going to that one. We know he'll go to the third one. So it wants me to look at a character's powers. Each character has a set of unique powers. Click on the Powers tab to get a view of all the character's powers. As you play through the campaign, you'll have the chance to gain new powers or upgrade existing powers. When you're finished browsing through the character powers, exit the character sheet. Okay, so hand size, proficiency. So this is what I'm proficient at. I've got a hide skill. I can evade. Ah, that's how I evade. Or I can sneak attack. If I'm the only character at a location, I can recharge a card to add 1d6 to the combat check. That's cool. So every character has really cool skills and abilities they can use. And of course, we're going to use the backstab now to increase our chance. So I got to recharge a card to do that. Let's do one of the thieves' tools. Yeah. Adds a d6. Now I've got a 31%. I'm going to add a blessing to it. 78%. And we'll do the caltrops. Oh, I don't want to evade him, though. 78% chance of defeating him. Boom. So now we know... Oh, I got to recharge one. Since there's some more monsters left here, I think I'm going to... So we know that the villain is now going to get shuffled with the other henchmen, but he's automatically going to... Actually, I don't even know if he gets shuffled. But he did get to go to the... If I had had that location closed, he would have been defeated, and I would have won. So I need to at least close one more location, because I only have 2 characters. All right. So that's what we're working on, closing locations. Night, Joe. See you later. All right. Pit chat. 50-50. Okay, so I'll keep exploring. So I can get some Boots of Elven Kind. I have no chance of success. And if I add a blessing, it's only going to give me one more d4. I don't really think I'm going to do it. Save that blessing. Okay, so this location is closed. Click the move button to move to another location. Oh, I didn't realize I closed the location by defeating the villain. Huh, that's interesting. I guess I thought it was just going to be temporarily closed, but... I guess if I defeat a henchman or a villain, I close that location. Okay. So maybe this won't take as long as I thought. Alright, I got the Warlord. So I'll use the darts. I guess I'll banish it. See, that's weird. It said that it 9 or lower. So I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. And I wasted the caltrops, of course. Ooh, I got a blessing. So I'm going to use that to explore, because I'd have to discard it anyway. Alright, we got a scout. He damages me. 2 damage. Guess I'll do the chainmail to recharge it. That reduces the damage to nothing. 16% chance. I use one of my blessings. 72% chance. Got him. Kind of running low on cards, but no. I think we'll just cure. No, wait and cure until I'm missing at least one more card. Okay, finish there. Alright. 25% chance to get the Amulet of Life. I don't have anything I can add. Got it, I think. Yeah. Okay, so I gotta use the Troubadour so that I can keep exploring. I've got too many cards in my hand. So I can use the Burglar to help me. If I recharge him, should be an easy success. So I get to draw some weapons now. Which I don't... Well, I guess I need my bow. I'd rather have my bow than my dart. Okay. Must just get random weapons or something weird. I'm gonna have to discard all this stuff. Gotta discard 3. Alright, well I don't think any of these melee weapons are going to be good for her. Hopefully we get some fighting going on. Okay, Bugbear. I'm going to have to go big on this one, I think. 41%, 58%. Yeah. I'm going to recharge, try to recharge this so I get it back. Nice. Now I'm going to use Cure because it won't go to... No, it'll still go to waste because I get 1d4 plus 1. So I got to wait till I get one more card in my discard. Goblin Commando. Okay, so I could evade him. That's what it means, encounter or evade. I can use my skill. I'm going to do that. Let's try it. Automatically. Oh, he gets shuffled back in. Oh, and that's the end of my turn. Okay, well, this location's almost done. Oh, I have a chance to close it. Now the question is, oh, he's just a henchman, so I can't permanently close it. Or close the other location. So with my quarterstaff, let's see what happens. 2d6 plus 3d6. Should be easy to defeat. Now the only downside is I have to do a wisdom or divine check. 75% chance. Dang it. Can't use anything to help. Hopefully this works. Yes. Location is closed. So there's nowhere left to run for the villain. I am going to play my cure card. Oh, all I have to do is reveal that card. I should be healing all the time. Ugh. I gotta get a Divine 8 skill check. That's not too bad, which I did. I should have been playing that all the time until I lose it, but... Okay, so I'm staying healed up now. Alright. No percent chance, but again, I'm not good at spells, so that's not a big deal. So I got banished because I didn't succeed. But I am decreasing that stack. Alright, she needs to go to Mariciel. Finish up here. Goblin Warrior. No percent chance. but we play the quarterstaff, 41%, guidance. Possibly going to lose it. Nice. So a chance of recharging it. 91% chance, that's good. All right. I think I'm going to use the standard bearer to keep going. Large chest, no percent chance. Okay. If undefeated, I may banish it. Yeah, because I don't really need weapons. And I need to get to that boss, so... Encounter or evade? Well, let's encounter him. He'll do some damage, but... We'll get rid of the glibness potion. Oh, I should have done the leather armor. Oh well. So I'm going to use my heavy crossbow. I think that's all I can use. Boom. Now we just have 2 monsters left in this encounter. Okay. Alright. Now remember, on this step, I could give a card to Kyra if I wanted to. She does need to... That character draws a card of that type from your discard pile. Oh, okay, so you mend armor, weapons. Meh. Ooh, I found the bad guy. Okay. No chance of success. I can use my quarterstaff. Okay. 27% chance. Mariciel cannot help at all. Man, this sucks. Wow. All right. So that was actually an easier. I rolled really high on that one. I conquered and defeated the villain. He has nowhere to run to. No other locations are open, so he's dead. So now you're ready to do a party. All right, or a regular adventure. So obviously, when you start the game, there's a quest and a series of adventures. You can also build your deck by creating a party, and each one has a separate deck. You can but the problem is you don't have a great set of cards to begin with. So one of the things you can do, and obviously there's new scenarios you can buy, of course. If you go to the store, there's lots of things you can buy. New characters. Let's see. Treasure chest reveals 4 cards. So this is part of the whole thing, right? Just like with Hearthstone. You have a chance of getting some good cards. There's, rare cards and common cards and things like that. You can also buy them outright. I do get 1 chest for free, it looks like. Oh, I spend 500 gold on them. Why is there an exclamation mark? That's strange. I wonder if it goes away. It's like, oh, and then of course you can buy different characters. There is a DLC that lets you buy all of the alt characters. I'm not sure how much that costs. Let's take a look. I'm interested. The DLC character alts is $5. Upgrade to Obsidian Edition is $9. I'm assuming that. Oh, it gives you a new campaign, Goblin characters, Goblin dice. So there's lots of little expansions you can buy. Obviously, there's enhancements, which I'm assuming these are like amazing cards you can buy. They cost a ton of gold, so you have to build up to these really powerful cards, which I'm assuming some of them are needed for some of the harder scenarios, harder bosses. There's lots of different. Looks like there's adventure decks where you have scenarios, and as you're playing, of course, um, you're going to unlock new scenarios, new adventures, and there's story involved and everything. And I will say I played part of the regular scenario after I built a party, and it's pretty minimal. There's not a huge amount of story really. So let's see if we add characters and you just have the base set, what can you do? Oh, that's not too bad. You got quite a few characters. Now, I wonder if I did buy like an upgraded set when I bought this, because it looks like there's a lot of characters here. Okay, so there are some that are locked, and I can probably buy them and get them. But I have a lot of different options, and you'll notice each one has a little bit of a different skill set. So I want to build a little different deck for each one. I want to have 4 characters in each party. Um, oh, but I can create a party of 6 characters, which is kind of interesting. Large number of characters have many options, but each character may not get very many turns, so that probably means you won't level up as fast, which is interesting. Um, but I will say, with all of the criticism of the game, it's fun in terms of like a basic push your luck because you decide how many cards you're going to spend or if you think you got enough percentage to win. But the actual playing of each scenario is very similar. You defeat locations, you find the boss, the villain, and then you corner him and defeat him. And so it doesn't really change. Now, I will say, from what I played, it hasn't changed. There might be some new scenarios out there that have different rule sets, but of all the ones I've played so far, it seems like that's the main point of the scenario. And I played like maybe like 4 or 5 scenarios on the iPad version. It's not to say it's not fun, but it's something to do, without having to think much. I think it kind of makes more sense as an iPad game or an iPhone game, something you can kind of play for fun and build up a little bit of gold, which I have heard the grinding is pretty bad to be able to buy items in the store, unless you want to, you have the money to spend them, buy them outright. But that's the whole crux of the thing, right? Is who wants to spend all kinds of money like that? Kind of takes the fun out of the game, but building up the gold and actually just buying them with gold also takes a really long amount of time. So as far as a Steam game, I just don't know for me, board game wise, even though it's an adaptation of a physical board game, if it's really has enough to last a long time, like have a lot of replayability. When there's a lot of other card games out there that are a little bit more interesting and exciting and not as um, price heavy, which is also interesting that you have to pay to buy the game plus grind and get new stuff. Usually, free to play games are like this, where you have to end up spending a lot of money or grinding a lot. But this game is both a pretty high purchase point, plus it's about $10 right now. Oh no, that's for the upgraded Obsidian edition. Pathfinder Adventures is only 10. It's not terrible, but it's like, if I'm buying, then why are you treating me like a freeware customer? So there's a little bit of controversy, but it's an interesting adaptation if you really love card games. I just wish there was a cooperative component. Although I guess I can understand there's not really much for cooperative players to do, and you'd have to have a lot of checks and make sure, hey, do you want to progress, and those kind of things. Doesn't quite work as well as it probably would with a physical card game. So anyway, that's it for streaming tonight. Don't forget to tune in this Saturday. We've got some one-off board games. We're playing a bunch of new board games, and at the same time trying to decide what our big campaign is going to be. But until then, if you don't want to tune in Saturday, which hopefully you will, table flipping is going to be great. We're going to be playing a lot of really cool stuff, having a lot of fun. But I'll be back here next Tuesday doing some more streaming now that my headset's fixed and apparently my camera fixed itself. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye.